Hey guys, loved action film Face Off the other day. The Terminator versus RoboCop. Hadn't seen RoboCop actually all the way through until this popped up, so got to watch it. Still think Terminator's the better movie, so yay team. All right guys, see you later. Bye.
The Longbox Crusade presents
Action Film Face Off.
This episode, it's 1992 versus 1981.
Two films enter.
One film leaves.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits.
Oh, welcome to Action Film Face Off. This is the show where two random years are selected. My brother will bring an action film from one of the random years while I bring an action film from the other random year. Those two films will then do battle using a variety of criteria, and a champion will be crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Albrick, the yard sale artist, aka the Death Probe, and my co-host is my brother Jason, the weaselest of all the skulls. We're both military combat vets who take our action very seriously. But not too seriously, so let's have some fun. Man, we have got some excitement for you today. But with that, we just got a regular episode. Neither of these movies were new to any of us because these are some big-time movies.
Yep. It is a regular episode. We decided to go with a couple of occult classics here. I'm just kidding.
Little known B films from Europe.
But what are we going to do here today, you ask? Well, we're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. What are those categories? Well, they are the story. They are the overall spectacle. They are the best action scene. They are the hero. And they are the villain. And they are still not in that order. We're not going to change it ever. I don't care what you ask or how you plead. It is going to stay. That's right. This is how you get it. But we will always have at the end the deduction round where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie.
Thank you, Jason. And as we've been doing since our 30th episode, we are joined by a sniper. The sniper has just 1 point to give in each category. So the sniper can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points. Let's meet our sniper for this episode. He's no stranger to our network. He often shows up during Saturday matinee theater to talk Sherlock Holmes or Flash Gordon or whatever else might be coming up in the future. I introduce you to Dave, the Battle
Van
Wagon Collins.
That's right, the Battle Van. That is indeed it.
Damn battle wagon.
Well, good afternoon, fine fellows.
Welcome to Action Film Face Off. Your first time here, right?
It is my first time here. I'm not going to lie. My feelings are a little hurt because I've heard some other people have been on multiple times, and I felt some kind of way about it. But I'm just glad to finally be here to bask in this warm glow of success that I've finally reached the pinnacle of podcasting glory.
There's just such a long line, Dave, a long line of people that wanted to be on this show, you know?
We're not kidding, actually. Our show is booked all the way. It's been booked to the end of the year since the beginning of the year.
Well, I totally understand saving the best for later in the thing. I mean, you don't want to bring out the big gun in the beginning and then have everybody else suffer by comparison all the way through. So I understand. Totally get it.
Dave, as we ask all of our snipers that join us on their first time, some snipers have been back a couple of times.
Nope, salt in the wound, buddy. Salt in the wound. Just human here, man. I got feelings and emotions, okay?
All right, hit us with your top 3 action films, and Jason and I will be judging you.
Put a lot of thought into this because I knew this question was coming. So, as we talked about a little bit before the show, my answers are usually highly favored or everybody thinks it sucks. There is no middle ground with that. So, I want to preface this with how I came to this decision. So one thing is I didn't include any comic book hero type movies because those are all pretty awesome action movies. I didn't include those. And I didn't include any sci-fi because we all know Star Wars, greatest movie ever made. So I didn't include those. And I actually left off Fast and the Furious because, let's be honest, those movies are just terrible looking to be happy. So those don't count.
We got sniper versus sniper.
So those don't count. Those don't count by any stretch of any imagination. So my three are going to go like this. John Wick is a fantastic action movie. Especially that first one is very strong, great story, great direction. It's just a great movie. And then I'm going to have to go The Bourne Identity. Another great action film. It's got a good story. It was unique at the time. The scenes in that one are shot so clean. I hated it when they went to kind of the shaky cam and the later ones. But that first one, everything was so clean. I really like it. And then my third one is probably going to be my eyebrow raiser. I call this the greatest movie you've never heard of if you've never seen it, and that's the Boondock Saints.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great.
A lot of people never heard of it. When a guy gave it to me, he said, "This is the best movie you've never seen." And it really is. And there are some great action beats in that, and just some great shots in that one. So I thought long and hard. Those are my three.
That three is approved by me, Jason. What do you think?
I agree 100%.
All right. Before our two films enter the Videodome arena, I saw Jason sharpening the spikes earlier.
Yep. Almost cut myself, man. I got to be careful. I'm gonna go
the messed up part is here we are. I don't remember what episode number this is, but like the bad news, everybody, is that Jason and the bear have become good friends. So they're never going to fight.
No, we don't fight anymore, man.
They're like Apollo and Rocky now. They hang out and run on the beach.
Sit in the cage, drink, we split a 6-pack.
I don't know what I'm going to cut out and what I'm going to keep in at this point. All right. Anyways, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These, of course, are the fine folks who have joined our crusade to get early access to special Longbox episodes, raffle giveaways, so much more. These are the folks who are reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blasted or Stash It.
Braxton Underwood.
Clinton Robinson.
Captain Entropy.
Dave Battlewagon Collins. Did that just for you.
His time came, and he passed it over to us. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh, man.
It's a special moment.
Battlewagon.
Gary V.
Gerald Green.
Jason King.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Joe Thomas, because I don't know how to follow that last one.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP, the multiple sniper.
Rub it in, buddy. Rub it in.
Mark Ross.
Monstrous Mark Hatherley.
Maxwell Traver.
Michael Wagner.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devins.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jumpin' Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Ross Michaud.
Ryan Daly.
Sean Urbanski.
Samantha Maney.
Spidey 67.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price, come on down.
Tony Pennington.
And the Toronto Cop. If we missed anyone on our list, we apologize. Please keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release, so if you're a recent edition, we'll add you soon. But no worries, you can let us know we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We will get it straightened out. You might be asking yourself, what is this wonderful world of the Crusaders Club and how do I join? Well, it's easy. You just go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to that club and all the shenanigans there, and you get all the access.
You gotta say it like Pat.
All the access. I can't say
yeah, nobody can do it as creepy as Pat. Enough of this. Let's get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film gladiators about to battle for your pleasure.
This episode, I was assigned the year of 1992, and I have selected Batman Returns. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
Oh, the randomizer gods were merciful, and they gave me 1981, and I put into our Videodome arena Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ooh, the bat versus the hat. I love it. We got a fine matchup for this one, folks. It's important to point out that this isn't Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our assigned year. I might very well like his selection better than mine, or vice versa. I don't think that's the case, though. Jason's a big Raiders homer. This is all about us discussing some beloved action films and coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. Let's start with an around the room of where we saw it. Let's be honest. I own these on Blu-ray. I own these on VHS. I have these on my Plex server. I think I went lazy and watched them off my Plex server. Jason, how did you watch these movies?
Batman movies are streaming on the HBO. If you have the HBO subscription, that's how I saw Batman. And then Raiders of the Lost Ark, I just whipped out the old Blu-ray and threw it in the player.
All right. Battle Van. See, now I'm being nice to you.
See what a little love will get you? A little love will get you some love back.
Go a long way. How did you watch these two films?
I actually watched Batman Returns on streaming, and I watched Indiana Jones on DVD.
All right. Well, here's your spoiler warning, folks. If you have not, if you haven't seen Batman Returns or Raiders of the Lost Ark, this might not be the podcast for you. But hey, if you haven't seen them, this is your warning. We're going to get a little music cue here, and we'll start spoiling stuff right after this musical break. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed those two movies that you should have watched 30 years ago. Oh, my goodness. All right, enough shenanigans. Let me jump in with some quick info on 1992's Batman Returns.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do. While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham!
You missed. Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
The cast and crew is as follows. It starred a little-known actor named Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, and I'll do it for Jason since he wrote it in the script. He wrote, and that's it. No one else of note is in this movie because Jason knows that I'm the world's biggest Christopher Walken fan, and he totally makes this the best Batman movie ever. We'll talk about that later. It was directed by Tim Burton, and the synopsis goes like this. It's Batman taking on Penguin and the Catwoman. That's all I'm giving you. All right, let's go. Let's go to our interesting trivia. Burgess Meredith, who played the Penguin in the 1966 Batman TV show, was asked to play the Penguin's father in the opening of the film, but he had an illness that prevented him from doing it. That's a shame. Now, I am glad that Paul Rubens did it. This kind of reignited his career after some shenanigans in the late 80s. And I'm glad it did, because I mean he's a very funny guy and a very talented guy, and so I was glad to see him come back. But having Burgess Meredith as the dad would have been super cool.
So I had totally forgot that he was in that. When it popped up, I go, I know that guy. I think I sit next to him at a theater in Florida.
I usually cooking that joke all weekend.
Yeah. He's been waiting on it. I could tell.
All right, here's your next one. The massive Gotham City sets were all constructed to be mobile, which I think is brilliant when it comes to filmmaking. Like you could reshuffle them, move them around, all that kind of like rolled around, which I think is super cool. They are often shifted between days of filming, and Michelle Pfeiffer reported that she routinely got lost on the way to her filming each day because they would literally reorganize the city and the streets would be different. So I thought that was kind of funny. Number 3, Warner Brothers had to constantly submit new Catwoman posters for various cities, as many of the bus stop ads were being stolen. It got so bad that police officers had to patrol bus stops in order to catch perpetrators before they could break the plexiglass containers and steal the large-scale Catwoman bus ads, which still to this day go for a lot of money.
You know Paul Rubens got one.
You know, Jared Albrecht wasn't living in super rural Alabama at the time. He would have got one. You got to have buses to have bus stops. It's like it's a whole chain.
You got to have stops.
So I was sitting there listening to that, and I was like, there's no buses. Like, the only bus we have is a school bus.
I know, right?
No Catwoman posters out there.
That's right. Dave lives in the country like I do. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
And I added an additional one. Usually we do 3, but I thought this was kind of cool. This is the first film ever made in Dolby Digital. So the Dolby Digital sound, this is the first film they did that in. And another spoiler alert, the sound in this movie is really quite good. But hey, now it's time for Jason to talk.
Yeah, quit trying to prime your movie there, Jared. I see what you're trying to do. Well, Jared, I will give you the rundown on 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm thinking I worked way too hard on my synopsis now.
I mean, come on. People haven't seen this. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Dr. Jones, you're a man of many talents.
Start the engines!
The Ark. It is something that man was not meant to disturb.
An army which carries the Ark before it is invincible.
Indiana Jones!
Let her go.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'm going after that truck.
Oh. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Trust me.
The cast and crew included Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, and Paul Freeman. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Indiana Jones and a jilted former lover team up to take on Nazis in a race to find the lost Ark of the Covenant. From the jungles of Peru to the mountains of Nepal to the deserts of Cairo, Indy and Marion take on Nazi soldiers, Egyptian assassins, poisonous snakes, and deadly traps in this action-adventure epic. I had some interesting pieces of trivia here as well. This is like one of those films where everybody knows every piece of behind-the-scenes news. So I tried to find some that I didn't know, so maybe it'll come out as a surprise.
Thoughtful.
So in the original script, when Brody comes to Indy's house, Jones was supposed to be entertaining a young woman there. And that's why he's dressed in the robe the way he is. Spielberg decided to cut out that element of the scene because he didn't want Indy to seem too much like James Bond.
All right. Is there anything bad about being too much like James Bond?
Well, interestingly, and we can go down this rabbit hole.
I was going to go the other way. That poor girl. That was probably going to be her break. And he's like, you're out.
I'm in the new Spielberg movie. She's telling her friends.
Yes.
I'm in a scene with Harrison Ford. Oh.
No, you're not.
In the second bit of trivia, so most of the cast and crew in Tunisia got sick, and we all kind of know that. But there was one exception, and that was Steven Spielberg. Instead of eating the local cuisine, the director survived solely on cases of SpaghettiOs that he brought with him. So he's like one of the few who did not get sick in Tunisia.
Oh, spaghetti.
Video. I was say, It'd have probably been the opposite for me. The SpaghettiOs would have probably killed me.
I got the SpaghettiOs. And finally, and this is where we have a bit of a crossover between our two films, Jared. Steven Spielberg originally wanted to cast Danny DeVito in the role of Salo, but DeVito couldn't get out of his contract with his show Taxi that he was on at the time. And those are my three. And now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Test your might.
Let's get ready to rumble! It's a street fight,
Okay, it's the bat versus the hat. It's time to get it on. As a reminder, you can play the game within the game, which is Match Game. 2 films, 5 categories, which means we can match up to
Laurel
10 times. We can have up to 10 possible matches. Place your bets. How many times are Jason and I going to match on these 2 films? I wouldn't go any higher than 5 because I think my Batman Return scores are way higher than And speaking of scores, your barometer is as such. On our show, a 5 is average. It's okay. Something you'd see on a decent made-for-TV movie. It gets the job done. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got a great film. 4, 3, 2, 1. You got things to work on. With all that out of the way, it's time to go to round 1. And round 1 is the story.
Come here!
How engaging is your story? How original is your story? What are your thoughts on the story of Batman Returns? I will start with our guest, the Battle Wagon.
Hey, I'm finally first at something. I get to go first. I don't think it's a terrible story. I didn't feel like they did a good enough job leading me from Batman 89 into this one. I don't know. There was something about that. I don't know. It seemed like a little bit of a disconnect to me. It just didn't feel like it flowed very well into that. But other than that, and I may be the only one that sees this, but you had Bruce Wayne had a villain about the power plant situation. And then Batman, of course, had the Penguin and the Catwoman. Well, he got to do both of his Bruce Wayne thing and his other thing. And I really like that. I think if you're going to have a successful Batman movie, you got to have a good Bruce Wayne. I will compare this to the newest movie. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when Michael Keaton was first cast and everybody was like, Mr. Mom is Batman, he blew everybody away. It was amazing. And like the new movie, everybody's like, sparkly vampire boy is Batman, but he was good. His Bruce Wayne wasn't there for me. Like there wasn't enough difference to me. But I always loved Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, and I like seeing him in those Bruce Wayne moments. And I felt like we got to see more Bruce Wayne in this one than we did Batman 89. So from a story perspective, I felt like they brought everybody in very well. It gave everybody's motivations pretty well. So, I have a good time with that.
I concur. You said one of the exact same things that I always think of. I love Bruce Wayne sides of the story. Like even in the comics, one of my favorite things is when Bruce Wayne squares off against Lex Luthor. Like that is so cool to me. Like I love it. They need to find a way to make that happen. Anyway, Jason, it's your go for 1991's Batman Returns.
Yeah, and I think we got to keep this in the context of the time. We've got a lot of superhero movies in the 2020s and the mid-20s, 2015s, whatever you want to call it. So we've kind of gotten spoiled, I think, a little bit with our superhero stories. They were still really experimenting a lot with trying to bridge that gap between the comic book panels to the big screen. And I think they did a really good job in that regard with this. There's definitely a comic book feel to it, thanks to Tim Burton and his kind of style of directing and the different colors and everything, which we'll go into a little bit more in the spectacle part. But from a story perspective, I thought they did a good job of bringing in all of these comic book characters and putting them into a fantastic but still plausible story. It really walks that fine line between being a good thriller movie, a good action thriller, and a comic book movie. It's really, especially in 1992, easy to slide over onto one side or the other of that line, and they managed to straddle it pretty well. My last thought was, if you would have told me, and I hadn't seen it, that you're going to have Catwoman, Penguin, and Max Schreck, 3 villains in this movie, my first instinct is going to be like, they always do this. They try to cram too many villains into the story, but they somehow make it work in this one. A lot of times you could take at least one of those characters out and still have a good story. They're not really that impactful. But in this case, all 3 of these have a very specific part of the story that they're carrying on their shoulders, and they all do it well. And I'll just leave it there.
All right. It's time to talk Raiders of the Lost Ark and your thoughts on the story of that. We'll go back to Dave, 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The story, the floor is yours.
Greatest movie ever made next to Star Wars. Oh, wait. No, I got more than that. No, it's a really great story. Ironically enough, when we started off, when you're like, how did you watch this? And I'm like, I watched it on VHS in my living room when I was, like 10. Because I was thinking about the first time I saw it. But I did. I didn't get to see it in the movies for the first time. But I did see it on VHS. And I just remember from the very moment that movie started to the very end, I was captivated. My dad said it's an edge of your seater, like you're always on the edge of your seat. The way they bring the whole story together from beginning to end is really hard to beat, in my opinion. It is a great movie, no matter when it was made. And you look at that movie made in 1981. It was made 10 years before Batman Returns. The cinematography, the stunts, they're as good as anything you can watch today. And it's all practical. There's no CGI. And I think that even tells more. It's so engaging. By the time you're 10 or 15 minutes into this movie, you were so into this guy, like, man, this guy's the greatest. Like he's James Bond with a whip. He's the best. They do a really good job of putting it out there to where you can't quite connect all the dots. There's a little bit of secrecy among there, but you still seem surprised when it happens. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's just.
Oh, no, yeah, it's good.
I won't talk about the villains right now, but you can't get greater villains than the Nazis. So it's a great movie, man. I'm gushing. I can't say enough about it.
It is a fine film and it's well filmed. And I'm sure Jason wants to wait on the story. You've seen this before though, right, Jason? It's not a first time.
Yeah, I saw it for the first time, in preparation.
It was good. It's better. Like people said it was good.
No,
I heard this was great.
This is very tough for me, and I'll tell you why. This is one of the toughest scores I ever had to sit down and come up with.
Me too.
There's 10-year-old Jason, and then there's Jason that as an adult feels responsible for looking at this objectively and trying to put some sort of process on it that's consistent for our listening audience, right? Because 10-year-old Jason saw this in the movie theater. And up until that point, there were two movies that were in my life. There were Star Wars and there were James Bond movies. I saw other things from time to time, but those were the only two things that I cared about on a consistent basis, right? And so Dad came up and he said, hey, you want to go see Raiders of the Lost Ark? And I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea. I went in with zero expectations. In my mind, I remember even thinking, is this like Noah's Ark? Like pirates? Noah's Ark? That's what I was thinking when I went in. So when I sat down, and like Dave said, from the opening scene in the jungles of Peru all the way to the rolling of the credits, I was engaged. It was an action spectacle like I'd never seen it before. 10-year-old Jason wants to give this a 10 right out of the gate. Now, as an adult, as I look at the story, I realize it's very simple. It is a very simple story with a MacGuffin, and it's designed to get you from set A to set B to action set to action set to action set, which is fine. It's fine, and it's done well. Are there better scripts, better stories out there in the action world? Probably yes, and we've talked about a few of them already this evening, if we're being honest. So I'm going to wrap it up there and say that it was a very difficult score for me to come up with because 10-year-old Jason was arguing with 51-year-old Jason the entire time.
I hear you loud and clear, Jason, because I was the same thing going on. I will remind our audience, I may have mentioned this before, but our sister, Jason's 5 years older than me. I'm 5 years older than our sister. She was born in 1981. And in 1982, I think my mother was losing her mind. She's like, I can get these boys out of the house. And my dad, this might have been the second time you saw it, Jason, is if you went with Dad without me, that's plausible. But my dad took us to see a Harrison Ford double feature. And we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark and Empire Strikes Back to back.
Oh, yes.
To get us out of the house all day. In retrospect, now I know that's what it was for, to get us out of the house all day. And little did I know I was watching perhaps the greatest double feature of all time. I mean, it was incredible. And so, yeah, I was just like fanboy versus, the whole modern thing is, people like to look back on the Raiders now. And the big joke is if Indy had literally done nothing, it wouldn't have changed a thing.
Okay, Amy Farrah Fowler.
I don't know what that means. Okay, I don't watch Big Bang.
That's a running joke on the Big Bang Theory.
Do not partake, but that's all right. But yeah, that's like the running joke. I guess maybe that's what kind of brought it to prominence. Is it like seriously? If you take him out of the story, it's going to end the same way.
Marion's getting murdered in the fall, but yeah.
In fact, he actually does more to help them find it. Find the Ark. They probably never would have even found it if he hadn't have been there. So yeah, I had those two conflicting things. Like, is it a really great story, or is it just a really simple story, greatly executed? Let's go back and score these, and we'll find out.
That is a great point. Is it a good story, greatly executed? I don't care. I still love it.
Yeah, I all do.
Can't disconnect 10-year-old Dave from almost 50-year-old Dave.
Jason, let's go back to Batman Returns 1991. The story on a scale of 1 to 10, you gave it?
I gave it a 7. Like I said, I thought it was pretty well done. It walked that razor's edge pretty well. One thing that really kind of took me out of it was the Penguin character, which we'll go into it a little bit more. I thought Danny DeVito did a good job with the direction he was given, but I like my Penguin to be suave and sophisticated, not a sewer dweller.
Yeah, I prefer a fancy Penguin.
That is my number one problem with that movie. Is I want to see Cobblepot being the envy of everyone, not the disgust of everyone.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. By the way, match game. I gave it a 7 as well.
Off to a good start.
Off to a good start. Let's go to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Scale of 1 to 10. How did that fight come out between 10-year-old Jason and 51-year-old Jason?
You know, when I laid it against its competitor, I thought they were pretty much neck and neck, so I landed on a 7 there as well. It's definitely above average storytelling-wise, but like I said, I had to rein it in. Jared, but I landed on a 7.
Match game. Again, it's the bones of the story are like a 6, but it's so well executed, it's a 7. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Now it's time to check in with our sniper as if anyone has any questions about where he's going to put his extra sniper point. Dave, make it official. Which movie do you think has a better story?
Well, hold on just a minute now. You don't know me. You don't know.
I kind of do.
You don't know me. You don't know me. And I will say this, as I was listening to you guys, I was like, yeah, I can see where they're coming from. And I do agree with all the points you made. So for me, it's going to boil down to execution, because the direction of this movie and the direction of the story is 1,000 times better to me than, God bless you, Tim Burton, I still love you, but better than Batman Returns to me. So I'm going to have to go, Spielberg gets the 1 just because of he executed the story. I can't imagine anybody else doing that.
Fair enough.
All right, that brings it to my turn. Round 2.
I'll be back.
We're going to talk about the hero, the protagonist, if you will. So we'll start off with the hero. I believe it's Batman from Batman Returns.
It's hard to go against Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. I have been for a long, long time. I love Keaton as Batman. He is one of my favorite Batmans. I say that unashamedly. I really think that when you start talking about heroes, he is the pinnacle. Like, he is a human being who has no special powers other than the training he gave himself and, of course, the money he spent. He has dedicated his life to this life. It's hard to beat Batman. I mean, Batman's pretty awesome.
That is fair. Yeah, he is hard to beat. That's a good way to put it. Jared, what do you got to add? He all right?
Yeah, I tell you who I feel bad for. I feel bad for Dave, the Battlewagon Collins, having to pick which one of these two movies has a better hero. Because Jason and I can like score it and nuance it, but Dave's got to like pick one. And I got a spoiler alert for you. Both these heroes have the same score for me. And it's really, really high. It's freaking Batman. The Tim Burton Batman, as sort of offbeat from the comics as it can be, it's still just so memorable. And it looks so good. And it's Keaton. It's a 10. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll score him later.
All right. That's fair. Let's move over to Raiders of the Lost Ark and talk about Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood. Dave, what do you think about the heroes there?
Man, Marion. Oh, I'm talking about, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's his name? Indiana Jones. Oh, yeah. The guy named after the dog. All right. So Indiana Jones, golly, is this guy still this cool if he's not played by Harrison Ford? That's the question. But how many people have played Batman and still been cool? So Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones is a classic character. And he is a very, very, very great character. I love him in all the movies. Not so much that fourth one, but I still love him. So Indy just has that, I hate to draw the comparison again, that James Bond kind of suave, smart, debonair. He takes more licks than James Bond. Like he gets hit a lot more than James Bond. He's not quite as elegant. I do think he's a great hero. I think he has a very strict moral code. You see that as the series goes along, like his moral code is way up there. Like he's always going to try to do what he thinks is right. And he's typically right. And again, he's fighting a pretty nasty group of people through most of these movies. So he's definitely the shining light, but you may be surprised where my sniper bullet goes.
I think Dave kind of hit the nail on the head. As I scored mine, I had one hero that's been played by one person for going on 30, 40 years now. So, and then a lot of people have done the cape and cowl to various degrees of success. So, all right, Indiana Jones. Wax poetic about Indy, Jared.
He's iconic, Jason. We've talked about the icons of action film face-off. You know, our list is kind of as follows: James Bond, Batman, Indiana Jones. So, yeah, I think we all see this as good. Yeah, I wasted your time. Let's go ahead and score.
All right, Jared, give me your score for Batman.
10.
Flawless victory.
All right, this is where I'm going to make Jared angry because I gave him a 7.
Everybody, say goodbye for Jason. This is the last episode of Action Face Off. He's been with us for a long time.
Dave, welcome our new permanent host, Dave Battleman.
Dave
I might have just fired myself.
A 7 for the bat? You got to kid me.
No, because I think of the Batman incarnations, and as I look at Michael Keaton's Batman, I think Michael Keaton did a great job as Batman. That 7 is all on his shoulders. My Batman doesn't kill. And this Batman set people ablaze, blew people up with bombs. I don't do it. I don't get into it. The Batman that gets a 10 for me is the Batman from the animated series. That's my
Mask of the Phantasm is the best Batman movie ever made, and I will stand by that.
We have had that discussion at some point. Yes, that is a great movie. That is the greatest Batman movie.
Yeah, Batman in general gets a 10. The Michael Keaton Batman from this film gets a 7. That's where I
follow-up question. Does the Michael Keaton Batman from 89 get from you?
I would give that one an 8. And I'll tell you why. Because one of the standout parts for that movie that's been ingrained in my brain, and I have not watched it near as many times as you have, but the one thing that I thought was outstanding was when Michael Keaton confronts the Joker as Bruce Wayne.
Mm.
And at that moment, that's the moment where you see the Batman and the Bruce Wayne merge.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Yep. You saw the cleverness of him knowing what's coming and preparing for it. And you saw him like he switched. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I can go to that level with you. That part is stuck in my mind. So that's why I would give that one an 8.
Okay. No, fair. I mean, those are terrible scores. There should be 10s, but you know, well explained. No, everyone's got the right to their numbers on this show. Jason gave Batman a 7, everybody. Our call-in line is 707-532-5269. It's just as a reminder. All right.
Beat up the Weasels call.
Anyway, this is your round. So
all right. Okay. I think we're to the point where we need to talk scores for Indiana Jones, if I'm not mistaken. So, Jared, lay it on me. What are you giving Indy?
10.
Flawless victory.
It's Indiana Jones. He gets a 10.
Match game.
Flawless victory.
Indy gets a 10 for all the reasons we discussed. Icon. Such an icon that they keep talking about remaking it with new actors, Chris Pratt, and they keep coming back to Harrison Ford because nobody, like this poor guy, they're going to wheel him up in a wheelchair at some point in time and just have him like doing wheelies, whipping this whip, and we're going to pay money for it. We're going to go see it. All right, Dave, lock and load that sniper bullet.
Indy's got double 10s, and poor Batman's sitting down there with a 7.
Good Lord.
Wow.
This might be where you get a bullet on your movie, dude.
Man, I'm going to tell you, man. So even though this particular Batman movie is not my personal favorite, a smart guy told me earlier in my life that every movie is somebody's favorite movie. So, but it's not my personal favorite. But man, like I said, you look at the history of Batman. If we're comparing characters. And Batman can be so many different things, and he's evolved. I'm going to have to go with Batman as far as the greatest hero in this batch.
All right, round 3.
Prepare to meet Kali in hell.
Round 3 is the villain. How menacing and or entertaining is your villain? Not enough movies realize that the villain can really make or break a movie. We've got some good ones to talk about. And Jason, you get to go first. Batman Returns, 1992. You got a menagerie, man. Where are you going with it?
You know, I kind of tipped my hand a little bit with my issues with the Penguin, although I think Danny DeVito did a fine job, again, with the direction as he was told to take it. Not my favorite incarnation of the Penguin. So we'll get that out of the way right away. The Circus Gang. Entertaining as all get out, man. I laughed out loud several times in those action scenes. They made those action scenes fun, which is important. So I want to make sure there's a good tip of the hat to that entire crew, including Vincent Schiavelli, I believe you said his name was.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Vincent Schiavelli.
I know you're in the middle of a thought, but I got to weigh in. Like you said, your Batman doesn't kill. Like the funness of the Circus Gang kind of almost makes you overlook the fact that Batman killed a couple of people.
No,
so you're
that's
right.
fair.
They needed that. You're right. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah. Like, did he just immolate that guy? I'm pretty sure he did. But these guys are funny. This guy's on stilts. Look at him.
The fire guy got set on fire.
That's irony, son. So let's talk about Catwoman for just a minute. Oh, wow. Michelle Pfeiffer. She knocked it out of the park with that Catwoman. You know, the only part that I really kind of had trouble bridging was like, at what point did she become like a world-class acrobat and fighter? I mean, was that always within her? I don't know. But whatever. She pulled it off really well. She was sexy. She was energetic. She was just a great love interest for Bruce Wayne and rival for Batman, which also made great storytelling. And finally, no, that's it. There were no other villains in the movie, right?
Stop it.
All right, let's talk about Max Schreck.
Well, Weasel Skull.
Max Schreck could have easily been one villain too many, but Christopher Walken, you nailed it. Like, he took his parts, and I think just his style of acting really helped flesh out that character. You know, I read Christopher Walken. He asked the director, tell him, where do you want me to start with this scene and where do you want me to end with it? And I'll make up everything in the middle. And so a lot of what we saw in there was pure spontaneity, especially that scene with Selena as he's going through it. And she's in it with him and she's giving it right back. So these are really great scenes that he makes better just by being there. So like I said at the beginning, my initial thought would have been one villain too many, maybe two villains too many. But thanks to Christopher Walken's acting, they pull it off and it'll be reflected in my score.
Excellent. All right. Dave, what do you think about the villains of Batman Returns?
I agree 100%. I keep living fixing to say this. I agree 100% with Weasel Skull.
It's weird, isn't it?
Wait, hold on. I just got to get that off my tongue there. It's tough.
Some Listerine there. Just wash that out.
Let me go brush my teeth. But yeah, like the scene where he pushes her out the window, like that is like a really great scene. Like I do that. You see his villainy. I don't really think the power plant thing was that big of a villain. I mean, that didn't like, I'm just going to hoard power and then sell it back later. That didn't seem like a real evil twist. I don't know. But him pushing her out the window, like the way he acted, brought that on. I really thought that was cool. I really thought he brought that out. I do agree 100%. I love the Penguin as a character in most stories. I didn't care for how they portrayed him in this. I do understand, like Weasel said, you know, that was the direction he was given. So, I mean, we can forgive that. The gang is entertaining. They are very entertaining and they're fun to watch. And then we get the Catwoman. I don't think she's a villain in this movie. I'm sorry. She doesn't really do anything villainous. Like,
and that's the Catwoman. She's always like right in the middle.
Yeah,
you know?
She's like, full disclosure, I love Batman and Catwoman together. Like, I'm a sucker. I was so mad at Tom King when they almost married him and then he backed out. Like, I'm a sucker for those two guys. I love them together. And then you look at the scene where they're dancing and she goes a little nuts and she's like, I'm going to kill Max. And Bruce is like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, dude, you just toasted a guy downstairs. Like, you just set a guy on fire. But, you know, I do have problems with that. But I think she was great. I don't consider her the villain. Like, I just think she was a victim of some circumstances and she was trying to find a little retribution. It gets a little murky when she gets with the Penguin to make that plan to set up Batman, but then she really doesn't do anything during that. Like, she's not a part of that. It kind of goes out of her hands. So I think my main villains is Max and the Penguin and the gang for those. And they're very well executed, except for the issue with the Penguin.
Couldn't agree on all fronts. And I'll just add that, yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I don't think Catwoman's a villain. She's always walked that middle line. And I'm going to toss this out there. This debatable topic, but I think this is the best on-screen version of Catwoman we've ever had. And I'm a fan of like Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt. Like, I like all this. I like the 60s Batwoman, but man, the costume design to me looks so awesome. And I don't know, I just think she's great. So
have you seen the new Batman?
No.
Okay, so put a pin in that and I'll see it Heroes Con and we'll talk about it. I do think she's good. She's definitely better than the other ones other than the newer one. I do think she does a good job. My favorite scene with her in the whole movie, and she's not Catwoman, is actually when she comes back the next day and they're all surprised she's alive. She is amazing in that scene. Like, that's my favorite scene with Michelle Pfeiffer in that whole movie.
Yeah, she showed a lot of acting chops. All right, let's talk about the villainy of Raiders of the Lost Ark 1981. Back to Jason.
The Nazis.
That means they're up to something.
They're always up to something. They're always up to some shenanigans. You know, obviously the main villain is Rene Belloc, Indiana Jones' arch enemy, the nefarious French archaeologist, teaming up with the Nazis. That just tells you how dirty he is. That Vichy French.
It's terrible.
And so the bad guys are really bad. There's really not a lot of depth talking about them. I mean, they're performed really well. I got to give points because I pointed this out to Drake, my son, when we were watching it together. That scene in the end of the movie where they're on the march with the Ark, taking it to that altar to open it. Indiana Jones tries to stop him with that grenade launcher. Belloc starts giving him the "go ahead, blow it up," speech. There's a fly, lands right on his mouth. Does my boy waste film and call for a cut or wave that fly away? No, man. He swallows it. He eats that fly.
He Kermit the Frog.
I'm not stopping for no fly. We're just going to keep right on going.
He did it in such a way that you barely notice. But he just keeps talking. Mad props to my boy for powering through.
Well, when your villain is monologuing, nothing stops him. Nothing stops a villain's monologue.
That's right.
And plus, he was just in Peru a few months ago. He had to eat some flies and mosquitoes down there, so it's probably normal.
Yeah, he's probably used to it by now. But at any rate, yeah, kind of basic. Bad guys are really bad. They're Nazis and a French archaeologist that's teaming up with the Nazis. Not much more to say other than that.
All right, Dave, anything to add?
It's twice in a row. I agree with Weasel Skull. This is getting bad. You're right. You're exactly right. And I cannot remember the guy's name, the guy who gets the symbol burned into his hand. What's his name?
Tote.
So he's like your main bad guy, I guess, too, the face of the Nazis, and he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But other than they're the Nazis, and we all just know how terrible they are, there's not a lot of villainy. Like, I will say that. But, you got to admit, that's a pretty big villain. It's hard to overcome those guys. At this point in their career, they are marching over half the world and there's no end in sight. So other than that, it's just those guys. And Belloc is good. He's kind of goofy when he gets into the drinking contest and he loses, that kind of stuff. But he is a smart man and he knows Indy inside and out. And that is the mark of a great villain because he gets the better of him in Peru. He gets the better of him with the Nazis at the Ark site. And then when he's doing that scene where he's going to say, well, just blow it up. Like, he knows he's not going to.
Right.
So, he knows him better than Indy knows himself. And I think that is the mark of a great, great villain.
That's a really fair point, Dave.
Yeah. All right, let's double back and score it. Let's go to 1992, The Villainy of Batman Returns. Jason, 1 to 10.
This was my highest score for this one. I gave it an 8. I thought overall all the villains did really well. We talked about Penguin. I'm not going to mention him again. I still thought Danny DeVito did a great job. So villains were well above average into elite territory.
I gave it a 9 because it's got Christopher Walken. Basically everything Jason said plus my Walken bump because he's my favorite actor. I see him on the screen. I get a big smile on my face. He's so charmingly evil in this movie. Let's go to 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark, kind of a menagerie of villains. Jason, 1 to 10.
I gave that one a 7. I thought that the villains were just by necessity pretty villainous, not a lot of complexity to them. But Dave brought up some really good points that I think are reflected in my score about Belloc and how he portrayed that character and how well he knew Indiana Jones that made him, such a menace.
Match game. I gave it a 7 as well for all the same reasons. Where are you going to put your sniper's bullet point on this one, Dave?
Unfortunately, I got to swing back the other way. I've given one to Indiana, one to Batman. I'm going to have to go back to Indiana because at the end of the day, I mean, Nazis are pretty villainous. I got to go with them.
Penguin tried to murder all the firstborn children in Gotham City.
So did the Pharaoh.
I want to defend it, but I also don't want Action Film Face Off to be known as the podcast that defends the Nazis.
See, I don't want to get any hate mail at the end. Like he loves the Nazis.
Like, let's be honest, their uniforms.
Those uniforms, though, were on point.
Fair enough. With that, I turn it over to Jason.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
All right, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to talk about the spectacle because action films are all about the spectacle. What are we talking about? We're talking about the stunts. We're talking about fight choreography. We're talking about the sets. We're talking about the music. We're talking about the themes. If it's part of the action, we're going to talk about it. So let's start off with the spectacle of Batman Returns. Dave.
So are we going to talk about the penguins with rockets strapped to their backs? Is that part of the spectacle? No, I'm just
kidding. Lost one.
Or, is that and the fact that the penguin always rides around in a big rubber ducky?
Two.
Okay, so I just watched this again last night for the first time in a long time. I'm not poo-pooing it, but it doesn't have the same amount of action to me as some of the other ones. To me, you get very little fisticuffs. Like the gang first comes in and, he drives the Batmobile in and that kind of stuff. There's a little bit there and there's a little bit at the end. Just not the same level that I would say that our partner movie might have, because there's a lot of things we could talk about there. Again, I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just saying that for my money, I've seen a lot more Batman spectacle. However, I did really like the Alfred connection because he was always right there, buddy. Like he was involved with every single step of the way, like every plan from the jamming of the penguins to the jamming of the radio signal. Like he was there and he was involved, and I really liked.
All good points. Jared, what are your thoughts?
Let me gush about the spectacle of 1992's Batman Returns. Okay, I think it has a little bit better action when comparing it to 1989's Batman. There's like Dave said, you've got the fight of the circus gang at the beginning, and then you got the fight of the circus gang again in the middle. You got a couple of fights with the Catwoman and sort of the big blowout at the end. None of it's like the super awesome Batman fight scenes that we kind of expect these days. You get to the Christian Bale era, and now that we're getting, martial arts in movies has changed fundamentally, and it's the more the Batman we want to see. So I get what Dave's saying, like the combat maybe wasn't the Batman we want to see, but I felt like there was more of it than 89. But the spectacle, as we talk about here, is a broad category. I don't think Gotham City's ever looked better than in this movie. In 89, it looked amazing. And then in 92, they covered it in snow, which makes Gotham look even more amazing.
I will say that the snow did really set it off. And I liked it being at Christmas. I thought that was a nice touch.
I watch this movie every Christmas as I'm wrapping the presents. That is a true story.
Well, it is a Christmas movie right there with Die Hard.
100%. So, yeah, the city itself, amazing. The Batmobile looks amazing. The Bat suit looks amazing. The cat suit looks amazing. The score, the Danny Elfman score, which is really a carryover from the first movie, carries over so very well. There's a reason his music sort of defines it. We've had a lot of different iterations of Batman movies since then. And if I tell you to hum a Batman theme right now, you're going to hum the Danny Elfman theme because it's the most famous one. It's really, really fits the mood of what Tim Burton and Danny Elfman, they always work together. And then for a reason, they get each other. So music's great. The visuals are great. I felt like the combat was a step up. The props, I think, were a step up. There's a lot going for it, aside from just the action. Like, tip of the cards, we're going to talk about Raiders. Raiders has a ton more action than this movie does, but this movie brings a lot more ambiance. It just has a feel to it that I think is incredible and hard to duplicate. Tim Burton, man, he walks that line. Like you said at the beginning, Jason, he walks that line of fantastical, but yet comic and still slightly believable. And he does it so well. I'll stop.
It's so cute to see somebody gush about. Is this what it's like for you when I'm gushing? Because it's so cute to watch you.
I don't know. I don't listen to you when you do it.
Oh, okay, whatever. But, I mean, you have to edit this, so you got to listen to me again. But I mean, I'm not saying I hate this movie, but you ever not like something, but then you run into somebody who just really loves something, and then they almost infuse you with their passion.
Yes, there's a guy named Vianella Plexico who got me to turn around on Moonraker. Like, it used to be my least favorite Bond.
I like Moonraker, but anyway.
Man completely got me to turn around on Moonraker.
So that's kind of how I feel about that moment. Like I said, it's not my favorite Batman movie, but like listening to you talk about it, it warms the cockles of my cold heart.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Well, while your cockles are all warmed up, let's why don't you talk about the spectacle of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
What's not to talk about, baby? I'm going to go back because you do have Elfman. I think he's a great composer. But then we flipped the page and we got John Williams over here, the other greatest composer of our time. I mean, arguably. So you do have a fantastic soundtrack from start to finish in that movie. The score is just amazing. I mean, you throw me the idol, I throw you the whip. Big ball rolling, plane flying out. Oh my God, there's somebody broke into my house. We're going here. There's a fight in the Andes. A guy melts a thing into his hand. I mean, it is just something going on all the way to the end of that movie. Like, when you talk spectacle, if I had a dictionary right here and I looked up spectacle, I think this picture of Indiana Jones would be right there. Because to me, it is a spectacle movie. You know, and Weasel Skull made the comment earlier that it's technically a very simple script, but oh my gosh, the execution is one thing. Is action beat after action beat after action beat. So personally, if I was scoring, it'd be hard to top. It'd be hard to top it.
All right, Jared, I know you're chomping at the bit to let us know your thoughts. Go ahead.
It's okay. I mean,
let's don't forget there's a propeller that kills it.
I was just kidding. It's amazing. Lucas and Spielberg set out to make this a complete love letter to cliffhanger serials of the 40s. And over on Saturday Matinee Theater on the same network, you know, we've covered Flash Gordon. We're in the midst of covering the 1940s Batman serial. So now I have a good reference point, you know, because I'd always heard that, they're homaging the serial is, you know, it's a tip of the cap to the serials. Now that I've experienced it, I see it's just like Dave said, it's the perfect cliffhanger to take you from beat to beat to beat, and it just never lets go. It never lets go. Even in the most tender moment on the ship, Captain Katanga's ship with Marion and Indy, and they're kissing, and then who shows up?
The Bantu wind.
True. That's the name of the ship. Good job. They get a tender moment. They kiss. And who shows up to ruin everything? It's those damn Nazis.
Blocking Nazis, man.
Man, they are everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, it's got John Williams' score. It's directed by Spielberg. And it's world traveling, South America, Middle East, big warehouse. Bottom line is, it's got it all. It's just one big thrill. It's a spectacle movie. We've talked about it before. Some movies are just spectacle movies, and that's exactly what this is. So, yeah, going to get a high score.
All right. Well, I think we've covered them. I think it's time to roll out some scores. So, Jared, what are you giving the spectacle for Batman Returns?
As we all know, my scores from here on in are going to be higher than yours because you already told me you gave up your highest score. I gave it an 8. I think it is just a fabulous film just to look at, just to listen to. It holds my attention. I don't check my phone while I'm watching, and I've seen it 1,000 times. I just still love it, and I'm a homer for it, so it gets an 8.
Well, we're pretty close. I gave it a 7. You know, if you compare it to, like you were saying, the more modern Batman, you get more up-to-date fighting choreography. I think they've made improvements on the suit, so the movements don't have to be quite so robotic anymore. So you have that as well. We've talked about this before. It's one of those challenges that we have, you know, as we watch these movies. How do you grade it on a curve for the time that it's in? I tried to kind of factor that in as well. You put it best. I think to me, it's the sets, the music, the whole, just the mood. The mood really carries me through this movie, maybe more so than the actual action moments. But I will say, up until this point, all I really had was the Adam West Batman, which I still love, by the way, to compare it to. So when I compare what I had here with what I had before, light years beyond. So that's me just trying to rationalize my 7.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, honestly, and I haven't seen the new one. We've established I have not seen The Batman. But I have never seen a Batman movie since or before that had a better looking Gotham City.
Yeah.
You'll feel that way after you see the new one too.
Okay.
Well, I mean, because in Burton's movies, Gotham City is a character.
Yeah.
Like in every other iteration, it's just a town. Like it's Chicago, New York, whatever.
Right.
But in those movies, I will admit it's its own character.
Concur.
That's fair. All right, we got to give the action sequences of Raiders of the Lost Ark a score. Jared, what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it a solid 6. Oh, wait, that's upside down. That's a 9. It's a 9. I just want to watch Dave's face fall for a second.
I was about to come through this computer. I'm done. I'm out. I'm just leaving. I'm done.
It is a 9. I think it is amazing. And really, it's not even Raiders' fault that it didn't get a 10. It's just I know there's a couple more Indiana Jones movies are coming, and I know which one I would give a 10 to. So, yeah, it's a strong 9.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, pretty much for the same reasons. I gave it a 9 as well. I think that it's definitely in that elite category. I don't think I can sum it up any better than Dave said. You know, action beat to action beat. Nazi gets punched into a propeller, old tombs full of poisonous snakes. Love it. Absolutely love it. John Williams riding along with us the whole way.
So we match game that? You said 9?
I did. Yep, we match game that.
Match game that. Fun fact, everybody. Jumping forward to Temple of Doom, remember when he fights the real big dude on the conveyor belt and the guy gets crushed by a rock? Same actor who played the guy that went into the propeller of the airplane in this one. He gets killed in magnificent ways in 2 movies in a row.
He's typecast, poor guy. But at least he didn't get cut. Like, at least he didn't get cut out.
I'd be if I could do that, I'd be typecast like that too. You want me to get punched into a
What do you want me to fall into this week, boss?
I'm here. All right. It's time for Dave to lock and load another round. And
Indiana Jones, moving on.
All right.
Just kidding.
Boy, I love it.
He just hit fire that one. Didn't even raise the sight.
That was all in fun, but yeah, Indiana Jones, moving on.
All right, fair enough. We'll take it because I want to get to the action scene. This is the part I've been waiting for. Go ahead, Jared. Take it. And give it to me.
Here we go.
Okay, wait a minute. I actually like this part of the show a lot, so I'm waiting. I want to see what these are. I do like this part of the show.
Oh, I
found your audience.
I think this is my pièce de résistance today.
I look forward to it too. I love the pain. It's like having that canker sore on the inside of your lip and you can't quit biting at it because you like the pain a little bit. It's a great analogy. Let's get to round 5.
What do? We die.
Round 5 is the best action scene. We pretend like it's my round, but it's really Jason's round. He's going to lay out his choice of action scenes from both movies. We'll pick our favorites. We'll score them. Let's start with the scenes of Batman Returns 1992. Jason, what do you got?
All right, Jared. I got basically 4 scenes here. Scene number 1 is Batman versus the circus gang at the opener. I call that one, turn on your bat light, let it shine wherever you go. Do you think anybody noticed that Bruce Wayne had like 2 big...
Yeah, that was weird. It's kind of a dead giveaway that like it tracked the bat signal straight to Wayne Manor.
I think that guy might be Batman.
It looked cool on screen, but it wouldn't take the Riddler to piece that puzzle together.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm thinking that the whole time we've been talking.
Okay.
And Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed up like Batman?
Because he is Batman.
He is Batman, you idiot.
I had to throw that in.
All right. Scene number 2 is Batman versus the circus gang and Catwoman, where he first encounters Catwoman. I called that one. This is the one that walks that edge.
Oh, it's one.
Fighting crime isn't the only thing that's hard. You know, he was like, I'm confused right now. Are we fighting? Are we making out? I don't know.
Are we going to kiss? I don't know.
Number 3 is Batman versus Catwoman Part 2, or what I like to call Cat Scratch Fever. Number 4, Batman versus the circus gang and penguins fouling up the bad guys' plans.
Fouling. Oh, my. Oh my!
Okay, I like that one.
That's not too shabby. All right, let's.
I got Dave with that one.
Let's pick our favorite action scenes. Dave, of those that Jason laid out, which one's your favorite?
I'm gonna have to go. Fighting is hard. Well, fighting isn't the only thing that's hard. Is that what you call it? That's probably the best one. Well, I do like the one at the end with the penguins, only because you get to see Alfred. He's like ready to jam the signal, sorry, and then Batman's just cruising down that tunnel and that whatever that thing is.
Like they have to mark it.
It's like a bobsled, and they splashing the water up on the windshield. And I'm like,
my special sewer sled.
I mean, I've got so many toys. I've even got one just for the sewer. Right? Didn't know when I was going to need it, but I got it. But no, I think that's the best one. I mean, like I said, that first scene is just a little stiff for me. But I do like the second one, and I do like the last one. But again, it's mostly because I like to see Alfred involved. Another heartwarming moment. I don't like it when Alfred and Bruce fight. I like it when they get along.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they're at odds with each other. I like it when they have those father and son moments, is almost what I want to call them.
I dig it.
No, agreed.
And I'm going to agree with you on the fight scene, too. I like the cat where he fights Catwoman and the gang, or the gang leads to the Catwoman fight. Fighting crime, things hard. That's the one that I like. Jason, what's your favorite one from that?
We're going to make it a hat trick. I had it it was kind of neck and neck with the first engagement for me, but I just really liked I don't know why, but I like it when he has the programmable little batarang.
Oh, I think it's cool. And he got defeated by a dog.
Yeah, and the dog snatches it. I like that part. So I'm going to agree with you guys on that one.
All right, let's roll these dice again and see what Jason's got for us in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay, I narrowed it down to 5. I think there's 5 really major action.
Yeah, there's probably like 27 in the movie, but 5 major. I got you.
The whole opening scene with the idol, I call it The Natives Are Restless.
Makes sense.
Okay. The next one is the bar fight in Nepal and Marian's bar. I really like that scene, by the way. One. Yeah, call that 1 bullet, 1 whip, 1 beer.
Always like a musical one, and
well, you gotta have
the next one's probably the one that goes too far. What's the next one?
All right, there's another musical one here, the Cairo Street Fight. So I call this one When Something's Going Wrong, You Must Whip It. When Marianne is gone, you must whip it.
Whip it good.
Whip it good. Number 4, Well of Souls. Whole scene going down there, escaping everything. I call that one, Oh, what a feeling. I'm hanging from the ceiling.
I told you I like this part. It's good.
My.
I like this part.
And then number 5, which is I also really like, was the truck chase / fight. I call that one Boys on the Hood.
Boys on the Hood.
Somewhere somebody's rolling their eyes, but I'm chuckling.
I'm doing both.
So those are my 5. That's what I got.
Well, those are tough to pick from. Dave, what are you picking?
Oh man, I'm going Boys on the Hood. I love the first scene, that especially you throw me the idol, I throw you the whip. I like that one a lot. But I'm gonna pull a Kathy here, and I'm gonna give a little trivia nugget. Does anybody remember the Lone Ranger movie that came out roughly around this time in the 80s? Mm-hmm. There's a scene in that movie where they try to stop a stagecoach. Basically the same thing, where he gets on the rope and he swings out from under the truck like Indy does on this one. If I'm not bad mistaken, the guy who did the scene in Indiana Jones was supposed to do the other one, but that guy got killed doing that scene. But that's a great scene. Like, I like it when he's holding on to the Mercedes-Benz symbol. Like he's just,
it's just slowly giving away.
But I mean, it is like that. Like you said, there's probably 100 action scenes. It's like one long. It's like action from the time they cross the thing and he uses the whip the first time on the guy to the end when they're boxing up the Ark. It's like one big action sequence. But I do really enjoy that one.
Jason,
you want me to go? You want me to pick? Okay.
Yeah. What do you got?
I'm just trying to straight up steal this category from you. You notice I'm just editing
every
you out.
episode. I've edged out a little more. It's like Batman '89 where he just pushes the screen over, and I'm just like,
I'm gonna go Boys on the Hood as well. I think that scene is just remarkably intense, and the action on that is just frantic. I mean, it's like, oh, the dude's like punching him in his bullet wound, and he's like slamming the dude's face on the dashboard. It like pumps me up when the guy throws him off. He's like, aha, I got him, And then when he comes back in and he swings on, he just plants the sole of his boot just right on his cheekbone. Just, pow. How's my foot taste?
Okay, yard sale. I just want to point out that 10-year-old Weasel Skull is in the house and 52-year-old Weasel Skull has left the building.
Just left.
He's left. He's gone. He's gone.
He's like, kick that Nazi in his face.
And then he just like,
And then I went,
Welcome to my side, Weasel Skull. Welcome to my side.
All right. Yeah, Boys on the Hood. That's me.
I feel like someone needs to take up for the bar fight. But I can't. It's Boys on the Hood. It just has so much going on. It's so captivating and fun to watch. I mean, shout out to the bar fight is really good. But let's make it.
Well, when you end a scene with a guy getting branded by a medal, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong stuff.
Strong. But yeah, we've got 3 for 3. So all we got to do is double back and score these now. Jason, the best action scene in Batman Returns. He fights a little bit of the Red Triangle Gang. He fights a little bit of the Catwoman. And you give it a?
All told, they all kind of were around the same level for me. So I gave it a 7 as well.
Hey, our final match game. I gave it a 7. And I'm kind of with you. I think they're all kind of 7s-ish throughout the film. Let's go to Raiders. Truck chase.
The truck chase. I gave that one a 9. I mean, it's a 9 plus. I mean, there are probably greater action scenes in movie history, but this is right up there with them. So I land on 9 for this one as well.
I gave it an 8. I wasn't as huge on as you, but I mean, 8's still really good. I think it's it's kind of like a movie full of 8s, which is highly complimentary. So there you have it. Dave, reveal to us what everyone already knows.
Wait a minute now. You don't know me. I keep telling you don't know me. Well, Weasel Skull said it was a 9 plus, and he is correct. It is +1. I'm going to go Indiana Jones.
There you have it.
Whew. That was a good one. Well, we've got one more category, folks. We've got the deduction round, the round for the ridiculous.
Got my ass kicked.
Are we going to remove any points from Batman Returns? No sniper bullets for this one, but Dave, I would like you to weigh in if there's anything that you would take away for this movie, anything that really bothered you.
I don't want to sway you, so please don't let me sway you. Or maybe I do. I don't know. You decide. My Batman does not kill either, and so that is kind of a sticking point. And then you add the fact that he does kill in this movie. I mean, it's not an accident. He does it on purpose. And then you add that to the fact that he has the little thing with Selena. How dare you think about killing Max? That just doesn't compute for me. So if I was going to deduct one, it would only be for that. That's it.
All right, Jared, did he sway you?
I'm going to give this movie, how occasionally we'll give it a bonus in the deduction round just for fun. I'm going to give it +20 just so it wins tonight.
I was going to say.
+20 from Jared, and we can skip right to you're the best around.
Is this like Harry Potter at the end when Dumbledore gets over and goes, Gryffindor, 3,000 points!
It's Batman Returns by a bazillion gajillion. I'm not going to bonus it. I'm not going to deduct it. Everything I had to say, I said during the rounds. Nothing in it really bothered. Well, okay, I'm going to tell you something that bothers me, but I'm not going to take a point away for it just because I'm a super nerd. If you're like on the 1s and 2s and you're a DJ and you've got like records, LPs going, and you go, that's awesome. It does not work that way with a CD when he was remixing what the Penguin was saying.
I forgot about that. You're right.
It would have just jacked up the sound altogether. That's probably what it would have sounded like. That has always bothered me that they treat a CD like it works the same way as a record. It does not.
That's a fantastic point. And then I'm going to tell you, when I was watching this last night and he pulled out that CD and put it in there, I go, oh my God, this is so 90s.
Oh, with the branded Bat CD player, all the better.
that takes you right back to 60 Batman because everything, had to, was labeled. That's the first thing I thought. But when he brought out that CD, I was like, because today it would just be push of a button, it'd all be just digital. But I was like, oh my God, what a great point.
Thank you, sir.
That is a solid point, Jared. It washed right over me. I was kind of in Dave's camp about the Batman that doesn't kill. I'm not going to take a point off here because I think I already factored it into the score for the hero part. So it's a wash for me. All right. We're not even going to talk about Raiders, are we? I mean, do we have to talk about Raiders?
I only have one weird picadillo, and maybe it can be explained to me. I've seen the movie a bazillion times, and I might just be missing something, but I swear in that bar fight, Indy's revolver turns into a 45.
Yeah.
And then turns back into, like, I'm always wondering, like, did he pick that up? Is that a
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, you'll see some shots.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
And he's holding a 45, and I'm like, Indy doesn't carry a 45. So that part has always bothered me just a little bit, but not enough to deduct. I'm not taking anything away from it.
Drake and I talked about it when we watched the movie too, because I said, I've watched this movie 100 times, and I cannot figure it out. Like, is he carrying 2 weapons? And I read somewhere, just like on a fan site, that he carried 2, but I don't know, man.
I've never noticed that. I'm going to have to go back and watch this.
All right. Well, we've decided nobody's taking any points off of either movie. All right. Well, I'm done.
That's the end of our official rounds. Now, don't you worry if you haven't been keeping up with the math at home, folks. We do that here at Action Film Face Off. In fact, Laurel has just handed me the paperwork.
Took her longer than usual this time.
There's a lot of math going on. Before I reveal the big winners, let's talk about Match Game. We've got 6 match games in this one, folks. So if you guessed 6, then you guessed right. Let's talk about Sniper's Bullets. Dave gave 4 bullets to Raiders of the Lost Ark, just 1 to Batman, and that's how that fell out. Now, looking at the judges' scorecards, the winner of this episode of Action Film Face Off with a score of 87 to 78 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I am a huge homer for Batman Returns, but it does not break my heart because Raiders of the Lost Ark is a timeless classic.
Boy, yeah, anything that goes up against Raiders of the Lost Ark is going to have a tough time. Congratulations to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now it's time to head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for our next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from...
Choose your destiny.
1986, and I will bring a film from...
Choose your destiny.
2002. What will those films be? We'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening. And Dave, you're actually here. So Dave, there you go.
The funny part is that's been there for so long. Dave's not on social media. Hadn't been in forever.
I know.
We've left it in there, though.
I appreciate you leaving it in there.
Or you can tune in next episode to find out. Oh, you said we had a listener raffle, didn't we, Jared?
Yeah, let's do a raffle on this episode. If you've made it this far and you haven't turned the show off, we appreciate it.
How could anybody turn this show off when you've got me on here? Like, how could that possibly happen? Yeah, Kathy's probably turned it off after Fast and Furious. She probably turned it off.
I hold in my hands a copy of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark on DVD. Correct. And I will happily give this away. If you are listening right now, you can comment on our social medias, which is at AFFO Podcast on the Twitter. And if you use hashtag AFFO Indy, I-N-D-Y, AFFO Indy, I-N-D-Y, you will be entered to win the Raiders of the Lost Ark on DVD, Indiana Jones. So hashtag AFFO Indy, I-N-D-Y. You will be entered.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. You want to get a copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark? Go ahead and enter that raffle. Until next time, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrecht, and you can find me on social media at Weasel Skull on Twitter or Jason Albrecht on Facebook and Instagram.
And you can find me, Jared Albrecht, the Yard Sale Artist, at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist, or you can check out my wares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. And do I happen to have an Indiana Jones book page sketch on a page from an Indiana Jones novel? Yes, I do.
Perhaps.
Do I have a Batman on a page of a Batman novel? Yes, I do. So if that excites you, go to www.theyardsaleartist.com. Before we go, we got to talk about where we can find Dave. As far as I know, you got to leave a voicemail for him at 707-532-5269. Pick up the phone.
I am still on a self-imposed exile from social media. It's been a beautiful couple of years.
I bet it's been great.
I'm very relaxed. I'm very happy, but I met a lot of great people. You guys, Kirk, Ross. I met a lot of great people out there, and I do miss that part of it. interacting with folks, but it was taking up too much of my life, and I just felt like it was the best thing for me. But anyway, I would love for somebody just to reach out if they want to chat. I am at oldben1972@gmail.com. That is OLDBEN1972@gmail.com. Drop me a line. I'll email you back. We'll have a great time.
There you have it. Be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all your finer podcatchers, and some of the sketchier ones. You can check us out directly at www.longboxcrusade.com. And if you'd like to send us a question or a comment, you can do that by hitting us up on social media. We are at AFFO Podcast on Twitter, or you can reach out to Longbox in general. It's at Longbox Crusade, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. All of our shows are becoming available on YouTube with bonus content as well. Really encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. Give us a follow, a subscription, ring the bell, all that YouTube stuff. And as I've mentioned 20 times on the show, you can leave a voicemail, 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
There we go. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next episode, keep your head down
and your knuckles up.
From the finest pedigree, find a legacy I own. My opponents never see me. Gather up components.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our action film face-off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it.
And Jared, you can cut this part out, but I've been trying to figure out where I can inject this, but when I was looking up my trivia, interestingly, and I never realized this, but the scene where Indy and Marion are trapped in the Well of the Souls and Sala is taken prisoner by the Nazis, in the original script, he is told, he's told that a Nazi is told to take him and kill him. And this Nazi soldier, is marching him to his death and talking with Sala, and Sala starts talking, and then by the end of the scene, the soldier can't do it and lets him go. And this was meant to show, even within the worst, we think the Nazis is some of the worst people, on earth, but even there was humanity, and it brought this level of complexity. And Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford and Karen Allen all watched the scene and said it was a magnificent scene. This was a young actor, had never really done anything before, but did such a good job with it. But unfortunately, they cut it out because it just distracted from the pacing of the movie. And so I think about that. I was like, I wonder what would have happened if they would have left that in. But anyway,
that would have definitely made the villains more complex. Like, yes. How do you reconcile that you've got this massive organization that is ultimately evil, but inside that organization you have people who are basically good?
Yeah, I think it was one of those moments where you had a great bit of acting and it just didn't fit within the structure of the story.
Kind of like that young lady in Indiana Jones's house.
Yeah, maybe those two got together or something. Yeah.
I bet they're living happily ever after. And they do not speak to Indiana Jones. Don't talk about Indiana Jones.
Don't talk to me about Indiana Jones.
We don't talk about Indiana Jones.
I think this is my round, isn't it? Okay.
It is. I really threw you off on this one.
I got lost. And that is the end of a really long round one. I have to cut that down.
Don't you dare cut me out.
I'm usually the one that gets cut out. Just a spoiler alert, folks.